So today I'm going to be reviewing the Samsung Galaxy A36, and overall this is a phone that I have enjoyed. And there's some good pros and there are some cons. So is it worth buying for you? Well, I'm going to let you know my full thoughts in this full review. So let's get right into it. So the A36, it is a phone that has some really cool colors and a really nice shiny back. And there are some amazing improvements to the design. We do get a Snapdragon processor this year with the Snapdragon 6 Gen 3. We even get 45-watt charging, which is a really awesome thing. So there are some real nice improvements, and I can't tell you enough. If we look at the design of this phone, it just feels so much better than the A35 in my hand. Now I know every phone seems to have that, right? Where it's a little bit better in the hands compared to previous years. But this phone does have a very nice thinness. And I know the A35 was a little bit thicker and it was a little more uncomfortable because of that. But this phone is really thin, which I really do enjoy. Now, one thing you are going to notice, and I do have to point this out, we do not have an SD card slot this year. There are some compromises when you do look at this design, and that is a little bit unfortunate. But if you can look past that, you are also going to see that this phone does retail for $400, but it's only been a few weeks and I'm already seeing it on sale if you're looking at the unlocked model, and prepaid carriers are going to have this phone on sale like all of the time. But the big way that Samsung seems to differentiate itself from the competition, it's got to be their displays, of course. This is a gorgeous display that's going to have over 1,000 nits of brightness. It's going to be more than bright enough for most people out there. It looks great and gorgeous whenever I'm watching content, whenever I'm maybe doing some gaming on it, or even just casually using it. It is just a terrific display with 120 Hertz and a very nice resolution. Now, if we go to performance, of course, well, yeah, this 6.7-inch phone now, I do want to let you know about the size here. It does perform very well now that we have a Snapdragon processor, 6 gigabytes of RAM, a Snapdragon 6 Gen 3, but I was a little bit disappointed whenever I did the benchmarks because it does actually benchmark in a similar way to something like the Galaxy A26, because the A26, it now has the Exynos 1380. And we're seeing that the Exynos 1380, even though it got a little bit warm, I don't really think it was overheating necessarily. It just got a little bit toasty if you were really gaming or going absolute to the max with the graphics, or really pushing it beyond its limit, maybe using it in very warm conditions. I don't want to say the A26 overheats, but having that Exynos 1380, it is a little bit warm, right? Just a little bit warmer than another processor, but overall, the A36, I love how it has a Snapdragon processor, but it doesn't really perform all that much better than the A26. So in that regard, I'm a little disappointed that this isn't a big jump up from the A35, and it's not a big jump up from the A26. If you're looking for upgrades this year compared to previous years, it's mainly going to be whenever you're looking at the 45-watt charging or whenever you're looking at the design. Those are the two big things. And the camera quality is really, really good. I was actually surprised at how good it was whenever I looked at taking photos with it. Of course, it does have a nice 50 megapixel camera. It does shoot 4K video. And whenever I took pictures of my family, they came out very, very nicely. Now, the A26, it did actually hold its own against this camera, and I was pretty surprised by that. But overall, I was really blown away. I did not expect the pictures to look this good. So I did take pictures in various lighting conditions of my family and nature, and overall, I'm just pretty impressed. I think the cameras are pretty darn good, and I think they actually stack up pretty well against Google. Even though the pixels are terrific and they're very good budget phones, Samsung actually does pretty good in this segment with their cameras as well. There is an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and we do get a 5 megapixel macro, but again, I don't think these secondary cameras mean much of anything in day-to-day usage because they are secondary, and on budget phones or mid-range phones, you're not going to get much out of those anyway. But the big thing this year, I think it's really going to be a focus on the software updates and some of the extra features. Again, we do have an IP67 rating on this phone. That means you could technically have this phone underwater for like 30 minutes and have it a meter underwater. Of course, you have this new One UI. You're not going to get a ton of AI features or anything like that. I know they say you'll get some, but you'll get circle to search, and you're not going to get a ton of the really good features on the S25 Ultra. But again, in this budget range, in this mid-range segment, I don't think you're probably going to care about that. It's going to have good battery life, like 5 to 7 hours of screen on time. It'll get most people through their entire day, no problems. So if you're looking to upgrade from the A35 or a previous A-series phone, I just have to say, it's not gonna be a massive upgrade from the A35. And yeah, it might be a bigger upgrade from previous years, but the biggest thing is gonna be the design change and the charging speeds, and a little bit of a bump in gaming performance. Are those things worth it to you to spend extra money on this compared to the A35? It just depends on who you are. I see this phone already going on sale, and the biggest thing of all is probably gonna be the software updates, because a lot of those older phones aren't going to be supported quite as long as this. We're looking at up to 6 years of operating system updates, and that is a massive thing if you are wanting support. So why buy an older phone that might only be supported for a couple of years if you could buy this and get 6 years of support? And why buy a budget phone from Motorola if they're only going to support their phone for like 2 years? Well, you might do that for some reasons. Maybe you want a headphone jack or an SD card slot. Maybe you're going to find something like that. So there are some reasons to buy Motorola phones. There are some reasons to buy other phones out there. But I do think this phone does stack up fairly well against the competition in the budget market, at least in the US. In other more competitive markets, I do completely understand it. You might want to go with something else. But in the US, with all the sales, with this on the prepaid market, and I'm sure you might even find this phone for free or $100 on a lot of prepaid carriers anyway. So if you see it really close to the price of the A26, well, it's actually pretty good, and it does have some nice improvements over the A26, even if they aren't major. So it is a really good phone. It's a phone that I would recommend. And yeah, if you need that extra jump up in performance, you might have to go with something like the Galaxy A56, or you might have to go with something like the S24 FE. But overall, if you're looking around this budget price range, if you want a really good phone that's going to be fast enough for most people, the performance here is actually pretty good. It's going to be pretty smooth. It's got a very good display. It's going to be fast enough. And I know some high-end flagship users are going to say it's not good enough, or some people in overseas markets will say it's not fast enough compared to these other phones. And that's fair. It's probably not for you. But when I look at it as an overall package, good battery life on this, a 5,000 milliamp battery, a good camera with decent 4K video and good pictures, good on the display, a really good display, and decent performance, and I would say it's going to be fast enough for most, and a terrific design. I love the thinness of this phone and how it feels, and I love the camera bump being a little bit different. But this phone is not for those people who need an SD card slot or a headphone jack. It's not for those people who are desperate for the high-end performance. You might want to look at something like the OnePlus 13R that's just a little more money, or just look a little bit elsewhere if you just want the absolute cutting edge, right around $500 or $600. But what this is going to get you for $400, and I would realistically say it's going to be $350 or lower, probably around $300 for most of its lifespan. You're going to see a lot of sales on this. I would say this phone is going to be great with a terrific design, a very good display, and just a lot of great things about it. 45-watt charging, a big upgrade this year. So there are some minor refinements in this phone. This phone is refined, but I do still think when you put it all together, it's a good phone that I did enjoy. Maybe not the best value out of all the A-series phones, but still, in the US at least, I would say this is probably the best A-series phone you're gonna get. And it's a pretty nice phone. So hopefully this review has helped you out. If you like it, please give me a like and give me a sub. And if you have any extra time, by the way, check out some other videos and check out those links in the description, because that's where you could find a lot of these sales. No matter what phone you buy, sales is often one of the biggest determining factors. So you might as well check out the price, see if you find any good deals, and if you find it on sale, this is a really good phone to buy on sale. So feel free to check out other videos, and I really do hope, no matter what, that you have a great day, and I really, really hope you enjoy your week.